Hello, my wonderful third graders. We are starting our Domain 7 astronomy, our solar system and beyond. And this is lesson 1, our planet Earth. Get ready and be excited to learn a bunch about space. Space, the final frontier. Here's some vocabulary words that you will hear throughout the read aloud. Atmosphere, it's a noun, so it's a thing, a blanket of gas surrounding a planet. Axis is a real or imaginary line through the center of an object. An eclipse is an event that occurs when one object in outer space blocks the sunlight reaching another object. The hemisphere is half of the sphere of Earth. Orbit is a noun, it's a thing. It's the curved path of a planet, spacecraft, or heavenly body takes around another object in space. So it's the way that a planet or an object in space travels is an orbit. Rotate is a verb. It's something that something does, like the planet. It means to turn around an axis or a center. Universe is all objects and matter in space, including Earth and beyond. So, why are we learning this? What are we listening for today? You're going to listen to learn about our planet Earth and its home in outer space, and to predict what you might include if you needed to address an envelope to your school using a space address. What? A space address? Well, you'll figure out what that means in a little bit. So, in astronomy, which is the study of things that are very, very far away, even though the tools and methods of science allow astronomers to know things are there in space, we're not always able to take photographs of them. Whereas a number of images in this domain are actual photographs, many are not. Some are diagrams created from real photographs, others are models or digital recreations that have been completely or partially rendered based on measurements and observations made by scientists using scientific equipment. So, scientists can take photographs of some things in space, but then other things are too far away for them to do that. But they know from their other scientific tools and different things what it looks like, so they can make a diagram about it. All right, let's get started. If you traveled to another country and someone asked, "Where in the world is your school located?" You might answer by giving the school's address. Its address explains where your school is located on planet Earth. So you say your school name, your school's number and street, the town or city, its state and zip code, and the country. A mail carrier could find our school and deliver this envelope from anywhere in the world. So Saffel Street Elementary is the name of our school. The school's address is 210 Saffel Street. Our town is Lawrenceburg. Our state is Kentucky, and our zip code is 40342 in the United States of America. But let's pretend you traveled far, far away to a distant place in outer space, and an extraterrestrial being asked, "Where in the universe is your school located?" How would you answer that question? You would need to give someone who lives far away from Earth more information as part of your school's address, a space address that explains where your school is located on a map of the universe. The first part of your space address that you would add to the envelope is your planet name, Earth. You might think you already know everything there is to know about Earth. After all, you've lived here your entire life. But what do you really mean when you say we live on a planet? The word planet means wanderer, a name ancient Romans gave to objects in the sky that appeared to wander on a different path than the stars did. As astronomers have continued to observe and study space with more powerful tools and learn more, they kept thinking about and discussing the exact definition of a planet. There you go. There's something else we got from the Romans, the name planet, which means wanderer. Scientists today classify a planet as having 5 important qualities. A planet is a sphere or nearly round object in space that has a large mass. A planet travels or wanders in a path called an orbit around a star. A planet has cleared out most other objects from its path as it orbits around the sun. A planet is mostly made of rock or gas or a combination of both. A planet does not make its own light but shines in the sky because it reflects the light of the star it orbits. Planet Earth is made of rock and orbits a star you already know by name. Can you guess it? Earth's star is the sun. The sun, like all stars, is an enormous mass of incredibly hot gas. It creates a huge amount of energy in the form of light and heat. Earth is one of 8 planets that orbit the sun. Actually, Earth is the 3rd planet away from the sun, 93 million miles away to be exact. Woo, that's a long way. If you drove from Earth to the sun in a car going 60 miles an hour, or about the speed you might travel on a highway, it would take you almost 177 years to get there. And that's without stopping to stretch. Most living things on Earth need heat and light from the sun to survive. 93 million miles may seem far from the sun, but it's actually the perfect distance for human, animal, and plant life on Earth to exist. How neat is it that the Earth was created in the exact spot where life could exist on it? You can think of the sun's energy as being like the temperature of Goldilocks porridge. If the sun were closer to Earth, it would be too hot. So hot that Earth's water would boil away. If the sun were farther away, it would be too cold. So cold that Earth's water would freeze completely. As it is, Earth's position in our planetary system is just right for life. In fact, Earth is the only place in our sun's system of planets, or in the entire universe, where we know life exists. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Another reason life can exist on Earth is because of Earth's atmosphere. An atmosphere is a covering or envelope of gases that surrounds a planet. Earth's atmosphere traps the sun's heat, keeping it near the surface of Earth. This keeps Earth from getting too cold. Earth's atmosphere is all around us. Take a deep breath and hold it in. You have just breathed in some of the atmosphere. Now breathe out. Your breath has just added something to the atmosphere. Besides providing the air we breathe, the atmosphere also protects the Earth. So in this picture of the Earth from outer space, you can see kind of like a haze. This blue haze is the atmosphere that protects the Earth. Have you ever slathered on sunscreen to keep from getting sunburned when you go outside? Earth's atmosphere is like sunscreen for Earth, blocking some of the sun's harmful light rays from reaching Earth's surface. Earth's atmosphere also diffuses some of the sun's light. This is what makes the sky look blue. In images of Earth as seen from space, it's easy to see the blue of Earth's oceans. Water covers about 70% of planet Earth. That's a lot more than half the surface of the Earth. Earth's water is essential to support plant and animal life as we know it. One moon orbits Earth many miles beyond Earth's atmosphere. Excuse me. Earth's moon is by far our closest neighbor in space, but is still far away. Do you remember this classic Mother Goose rhyme? Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Well, that was one high jumping cow. The moon is about 239,000 miles away from Earth. So if the cow jumped from Earth to the moon going 60 miles per hour, it would get there in about 166 days. That would be one mighty jump for a cow. You have seen the different phases of the moon as its shape changes during a month's time. As the moon's orbit As the moon orbits Earth, we see different amounts of sunlight reflected from the moon's surface. At the same speed, who remembers how long it would take to get to the sun from Earth? That's right, 177 years. Sometimes the moon, Earth, and sun line up so that one of them is hidden from view. This is known as an eclipse. A solar eclipse happens when the moon comes between the sun and Earth, hiding the sun so some people on Earth can't see it. A lunar eclipse is when Earth comes between the sun and the moon. When this happens, people on Earth see Earth's shadow on the moon, making the moon appear dark or even seem to disappear. But the moon doesn't really disappear, it's just hidden for a short time in Earth's shadow. Planet Earth moves in two ways. The first we've already talked about. It travels in a nearly circular path or orbit around the sun. The actual path of Earth's orbit is not a perfect circle. It's just a little longer in one direction than in the other. The name for this type of nearly circular path is an ellipse. An orbit that is shaped like an ellipse is described as an elliptical orbit. It takes Earth 365 and 1/4 days to orbit the sun one time, so Earth's year is 365 days. The amount of time it takes a planet to orbit the sun one time is called its planetary year. But what about that extra 1/4 day? Why don't we count it? Actually, we do count it. We just don't count it every year. Instead, we add up this extra 1/4 day for 4 years in a row to make one full day. So that would be 4/4, which is equal to one whole. So one whole day. Then in the 4th year, we add that extra day to the end of February. So once every 4 years, it has 29 days instead of its usual 28. We call this year the extra day. We call this year with the extra day a leap year because everything leaps ahead by one day. The second way planets in our solar system move is by spinning as they orbit the sun. Have you ever spread your arms wide and twirled yourself around until you were so dizzy you could hardly stand up? Can you feel the axis or center line of your body around which you spin? What parts of your body rotate or spin around your axis? Do you remember your skull and your ribs and your spine are all called axle bones? If you think about that, they have the same, a similar spelling as axis, right? Your axle bones are in the middle and are the parts that aren't spinning as much, right? They stand still while your arms and maybe your legs are spinning more around you. Maybe you've played with a spinning top or have seen an ice skater spin quickly around and around on one foot. This is what it means to rotate. But when a planet rotates, it doesn't twirl around on feet like you do. It spins around an imaginary line that goes from its north pole to its south pole, right through its center. This imaginary line is called the planet's axis. One day is the amount of time it takes for a planet to rotate one time around its axis. A day on Earth is 24 hours. These 24 hours are divided into daytime and nighttime. As Earth rotates, half of Earth faces the sun and receives the sun's light, as you can see in this picture, where half the Earth is getting the sun's light. It is daytime on this side of Earth, but at that same moment, the opposite of half of Earth is facing away from the sun. So what time of day would that be? This side of Earth is not receiving any of the sun's light, so it is dark there. It is in the Earth's shadow. It is nighttime. We don't feel Earth spinning. From our viewpoint, it looks like the sun is moving and the Earth is not. After all, doesn't the sun appear to rise every morning in the east and set every evening in the west? This daily motion of the sun from east to west might make it seem like the sun is moving around the earth, but it's not. You are moving around the sun, or really, earth is. In the morning, the part of earth you are standing on is turning away from darkness and rotating to face the sun. When the sun is up at its highest point in the sky, earth has rotated so you are fully facing the sun. In the evening, earth turns away from the sun and it becomes dark again. Why is it dark? Because you are in the shadow of earth. It is night and you go to bed. But as you sleep, earth keeps rotating on its axis, and before you know it, your side of the world will have turned to face the sun again. You and the part of earth on which you live will have once again moved out of earth's shadow. And you'll know that one rotation of earth one day will have ended, and another one will be just beginning. Days turn into months, and months turn into seasons. What's your favorite season of the year? Fall, winter, spring, summer? You might know what your favorite season is, but do you know what causes the seasons? It's a combination of the two motions of Earth that we've been talking about: Earth's orbit around the sun and Earth's rotation on its tilted axis. Remember, an axis is the imaginary line that goes through the center of a planet from its north pole to its south pole and then points out into space in both directions. But a planet's axis doesn't always point straight up and down, like the axis of a spinning top. Many planets, including Earth, have an axis that is tilted a little to the side. This tilt is the key to understanding Earth's seasons. Because Earth is tilted, there is a time of year during Earth's orbit around the sun that the North Pole, and therefore the whole northern hemisphere, is tilted a little bit towards the sun. This tilt gives the northern hemisphere longer periods of daylight and shorter periods of nighttime darkness. Longer periods of daylight give the sun more time to warm Earth, so it gets hotter. The tilt of Earth's axis also makes the sun in the northern hemisphere appear higher in the sky at noon. When the sun is higher in the sky, its rays hit Earth more directly, at less of an angle. The more directly the sun hits the northern hemisphere, the better job it does of heating that part of Earth. So it is the tilt of Earth which causes longer periods of daylight and a high noontime sun that makes summer happen. While it is summer in the northern hemisphere, let's see what is happening in the southern hemisphere. Why is it winter on this part of Earth? The reason is, again, the tilt of Earth. When the northern hemisphere is tilted toward the sun, the southern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. This causes the southern hemisphere to have shorter periods of daylight and the sun to appear lower in the sky at noon. Shorter periods of daylight give the sun less time to warm Earth, so it is cooler. And when the sun is lower in the sky, its rays hit Earth at more of an angle or a slant. This angle makes the sun have to heat a larger area of Earth with the same amount of energy, and this means the sun does not feel as warm. The rays of sunlight are less direct and less intense. It is colder, it is winter. As Earth continues its orbit around the sun, the axis of Earth always stays pointed in the same direction. So when Earth reaches the opposite side of the sun, the South Pole, instead of the North Pole, is now tilted toward the sun. This means that the Southern Hemisphere has summer and the Northern Hemisphere has winter. The seasons in the Northern and Southern Hemispheres are always opposite each other. This is because only one of them at a time is tilted towards the sun. So now you know the first part of your space address. Your school is on planet Earth, and planet Earth is part of your space address. So now you have more information that you would need to answer an extraterrestrial being that might ask where your school is located in the universe. So our school's name is Saffel Street Elementary. Our school number and street is 210 Saffel Street. Our town is Lawrenceburg, and our state is Kentucky, and our zip code is 40342. Our country is the United States of America, and our planet is planet Earth. In the next lesson, you will learn more about the next line of your space address. What do you think that's going to be? What else would you need to know about where our school is located? Think bigger than our planet. What kind of space object is our sun? It's a star. Why is the sun classified this way? Our sun is a huge, distant mass of fiery gas that gives off constant light and heat. What kind of space object is Earth? It's a planet. Why is Earth classified this way? Earth is a sphere in space with a large mass. It orbits around a star, our sun. It has cleared most other objects from its path around the sun. It is made mostly of rock and gas. It does not make its own light. Describe the ways in which Earth moves in space. Earth travels around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and it rotates or spins on its axis. What characteristics of Earth did you hear about in this read aloud that make it a good place for life? Earth is the third planet from the sun and gets just the right amount of heat and light. Earth is just the right temperature. It has an atmosphere that protects life from harmful sunlight and helps hold heat to maintain a steady temperature. It also has water, which is important. You heard about a solar eclipse in today's read aloud. What happens during a solar eclipse? Sunlight is blocked from Earth because the moon passes directly between the sun and Earth. What is another type of eclipse? A lunar eclipse. What happens during this type of eclipse? Earth passes directly between the sun and the moon, blocking the sun's light from reaching the moon and casting Earth's shadow on the moon. How does the rotation of Earth cause daylight in the darkness of night? The constant rotation of Earth changes the part of Earth facing the sun and receiving its light. When a portion of Earth is facing the sun, it experiences daylight. When the portion is facing away from the sun, it is in the darkness of nighttime. Why does it seem like the sun rises and sets? The sun appears to rise and set because Earth is spinning on its axis as it orbits the sun. In which direction does the sun appear to rise? In the east. In which direction does the sun appear to set? In the west. What causes Earth to have seasons as it orbits around the sun? Earth is tilted in a fixed position, and as it travels around the sun, one side or hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, and the other side or hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. The hemisphere that is tilted toward the sun gets more direct sunlight and experiences summer. The hemisphere that is tilted away from the sun gets less direct sunlight and experiences winter. Imagine you are traveling through the universe and you meet an imaginary extraterrestrial life form that asks you where your school is located. Describe the parts of your space address that would be important to share. You need to tell them the location, the name of your school, the town, your state, your country, and planet Earth. What other parts of your space address do you predict would be important to include as well? What do you think we'll talk about tomorrow? Our word for today is universe. In the read aloud you heard, where in the universe is your school? Say the word universe. The universe is everything in space, including Earth, our solar system, and all of the stars and other space objects that exist. Scientists have only explored a very small part of the universe. They do not know how big the universe is, but they know there is a great deal more to explore. What questions do you still have about our universe? What do you hope we cover in this unit? Use this diagram, make sure to reference or talk about it in your answer. Explain how we have daytime and nighttime on Earth. All right, good job, third graders. I hope you enjoyed our introduction to the solar system.